The webcast now started.
Thanks so much, Caroline. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the decision days of myself. I'm Kirsty North, the Executive Lead Member for Universal Services, as well as Lulu Bauman, who is the Executive Member for Highways and Passenger Transport. These decision days are being broadcast in one session live on YouTube via the County Council website. I'd like to welcome some other councillors we've got on the call. We have Councillor Malcolm Wallace from the Independent Group, and we have got Councillor Jackie Porter and Councillor Jonathan Williams also on the call with us at the moment. So we've got some deputations as well from them, as well as resident Debbie Harding, and they're all going to be speaking on the Hampshire Local Authority Bus Grant BSIP investment programme for 26-27 to 29-30. Which is item 7 on our published agenda. So that we may hear their comments at the outset of the meeting, I am changing the order of the agenda and bringing those forward. So I'm going to invite Councillor Lulu Bauman, the Executive Member for Highways and Passenger Transport, to consider her decisions first. So we're going to be taking items 7 to 10 on the agenda, and then we will return to my decision day afterwards. So Lulu, over to you.
Thank you, Kirsty. I'm the Executive Member for Highways and Passenger Transport, and thank you for attending my virtual decision day today. I think I would like to pass over now to, and welcome, I should say, resident Debbie Harding and councillors Jackie Porter and Jonathan Williams, who will be speaking on the Hampshire Local Bus Grant, the BSIP investment programme for 26, 27 and 29-30. Debbie, lovely to have you on the call, and would you like to go first?
Thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. I'm pleased to read that the criteria for use of local government bus funding has changed, and that guiding principles include promoting bus use for education and supporting socially necessary bus services. The reason for my deputation today is to raise the impact of the connectivity gap caused by the lack of direct bus service between Eastleigh and Winchester. In the year ending August 2025, 81,000 passengers used the service between Winchester and Eastleigh. The service was used by residents from Eastleigh through Boyett Wood, Albrook, Colden Common, Twyford and Winchester. The service was essential for many to travel to work, for leisure and for shopping in Eastleigh, and provided access to Royal Hampshire County Hospital. It was the only direct bus service to Eastleigh College, and was used for students attending Peter Symonds and Barton Peveril. 6 months after the service was withdrawn, the impact on people's daily lives is so great, a group of Colden Common residents have set up a campaign group, Back Our Buses, Bob, which has growing support on social media and its website. A service linking Winchester to Eastleigh strongly aligns with the core policies C1, C3 and C4 in the local transport plan. Agenda item 4 highlights today that a new transport strategy is required for Eastleigh, with transport issues impacting residents and businesses. The report also highlights that some major roads are heavily congested at peak times. The scale of development in and around Eastleigh means this situation will only worsen. I am asking that when considering the distribution of this funding, please extend public transport options by providing a link between Winchester and Eastleigh via Colden Common to address the gap. Active travels options are not feasible on existing roads for many. This connectivity gap could be addressed in a variety of ways, but with some initial financial support, building a commercial viable route will have significant benefits for people of all demographics, the environment and the wider economy. Please can the recommended allocation for funding themes enable creative solutions to be funded? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Debbie. And much appreciated. And we're welcome to observe the remainder of the meeting via the public broadcast. Can I now hand over to Councillor Jonathan Williams to speak? And again, you have 10 minutes in which to do your deputation. Thank you.
Thank you, and you'll be pleased to know I won't take up the full 10 minutes. Debbie's just spoken very clearly, obviously, on sort of the 61 service, and I really, I know today's decision day is about sort of the funding allocation and not specific allocations to services. itself. But I wanted to sort of ask a couple of questions really that hopefully might get covered later on. So as part of today's decision day, there's also the Eastleigh travel plan that's going through. And there's one extract that I saw in that whereby it highlights that high through traffic levels along the B3354/Winchester Road corridor leads to poor local environmental conditions for residents in settlements either side of the road. Now, although Colne Common and Twyford aren't in the Eastleigh district, that is that corridor that we speak of, and through that there's sort of no identified needs, no identified solutions to that issue. And wanted to sort of say, bus service would reduce the volumes of traffic along that side. And then I had a couple of questions. One was around the revenue allocation. It's fixed along the years. The capital allocation goes up. So I had a slight concern that obviously as services the cost of delivering those goes up with inflation. Are we likely to see any reduced sort of services because of that, or whether that had been already sort of factored into that allocation? And then the final question I had was on these socially necessary services, really. Does this protection only relates to existing services, or could it be used for a new service or restoration of a service? But those were the main topics I had to cover.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. That's great. And do stay on the call as well. And then finally, Councillor Jackie Porter, if you would like to give your deputation now.
Thank you, and I hope that you're all feeling okay now.
So, oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Not
I'm just going to raise three matters on BSIP funding, and this is really to appreciate that some services are socially necessary and that they are funded by Hampshire County Council, but also to encourage better use of buses for regular journeys such as access to education and work, as well as shopping and going to doctors and that sort of thing. So there's three matters on a very local level that I just like consideration of, that I've never managed to break through this conversation. So the first one is that in one of my partially and fully funded schemes, the timetable starts in Winchester. Now, this service is specifically designed to help people from a far-flung village, in fact, it's Micheldever, not Micheldever Station, but Micheldever, back to Winchester. So nobody's on that first leg. They get on the bus, they come back again on that next bus, and then the next bus goes back empty. So Hampshire is actually paying for 4 journeys when actually only 2 are usable. And I'm just frustrated by this process, because if you look at the timetable, it looks like there are 4 runs, but nobody gets on it in Winchester. So you have this expense that we've spent to achieve a service for two legs of the journey. That's the first one. The next one is that we have a Route 67, which supports school bus travel, and it supports school bus travel over a number of routes along the way, and all the way from Winchester to Petersfield. The route has already been identified by the team for a potential for improvement, and I'm really grateful. Mike Griffin, who's one of the officers, has been amazing at trying to work with us on this one and the Kings Barton bus, and I really give credit to them for trying to do that. But at the moment, we're a bit tied with this one, because it supports bus travel, but the timetable is very complicated. It doesn't do the same on Tuesdays as it does on Thursdays. It has a school days timetable, it has a non-school days timetable, and that makes it more difficult for people to understand. And so my question is, why do you have to have a non-school day timetable? Why does it need to change on non-school days? And why can't it be the same 7 days a week or 5 days a week? Because having a service that's consistent means that other people use it too. And then the last one is that this is one that ties up with the Worthy school bus. The Worthy school bus is going to be withdrawn, or that's the plan proposed for withdrawal. There is a number 6 bus from Kingsworthy. That bus is very unreliable. And although it is a potential for some children to catch, the unreliability is dangerous for those children because they can't catch it to school. And it's so frustrating that Stagecoach wouldn't even have a conversation about that reliability, even at 7 o'clock in the morning when it's not generally busy elsewhere. And I'm really sad that the county council hasn't really attempted to have an engagement with Stagecoach on that matter, because it would be a public service bus that children could use more often. But anyway, those are the three things. But the first two are my real concern, which is, why do we have to have a non-school day bus timetable? Why could it not just be the same? The second one is, why do we pay for 4 legs when only 2 legs are satisfactory? And then my fourth point is relating to bus stops that aren't actually accessible for people who are using wheel-bound uses, such as buggies or pushing pushchairs. I've got several in my area where they are just not suitable, and I hope that the Bus Infrastructure Fund will do something towards that work, because they're very well used buses but not well used at those stops. And as communities get older, we're finding that the need for those communities at those particular bus stops are different, and we don't at the moment have that flexibility to be able to offer that service. That's my points.
Thank you very much, Jackie.
Thank you.
Very interesting points in there. And I know Patrick and Andrew Wilson were taking notes as you were speaking. So I'm sure they'll pick up on the various points from all 3 deputies. So thank you very much. At this point, I am going to pass over to Patrick Blogg. And Patrick, if you'd like to introduce the report formally, and I'm sure the questions will arise as you go through. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Bowman. Good afternoon, members. Good afternoon, those watching. My name is Patrick Blogg. I'm the Director of Universal Services. I was going to introduce now the Bus Grant Investment Programme report. Now, this is the report that we took to Select Committee this morning, and we had a very good set of questions and answers and a debate on the report itself. It notes the allocation of the local authority bus grant funding from Department for Transport from 26-27 through to 29-30, and what it does, it sets out the themes and indicative levels of investment for schemes and projects to improve local bus services in accordance with the Bus Service Improvement Plan. I wasn't intending to say any more on the paper itself because there's a lot of detail in the paper. I've got colleagues on the call as well who'd be happy to take questions on any specific details as well, but that's all, Councillor Bowman. Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick, shall we pick up on some of the questions perhaps as we go through? If I can ask Andrew perhaps to do that, if that's all right. Andrew, did you have details of the questions that particularly were raised by Councillor Porter, Jackie Porter? Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah, do you want me to take them in chronological order, or Councillor Porter's questions first?
It's chronological. It's fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So from Debbie Harding and Councillor Williams as well, to include those.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So in terms of Debbie's comments and questions about the 61. And I think ultimately the question was, can the funding be used creatively to try and find solutions for those areas that haven't been that have lost their service under the SP25 reductions? Whilst that's not specifically covered in this report, because the report is very much about programme level detail, it's about funding allocations to general areas of spend, whether it's to do with real-time information, whether it's to do with bus priority measures, selective vehicle detection, service support, those sorts of things. In terms of the 61, what we can say is that there is a pot of funding that's allocated within the BSIP allocation. It's actually a pot of funding that's available in this current financial year as well, in 25-26, for community-led challenge fund, basically. So that's the opportunity. We've put money aside for communities to come together to us, to put proposals to us around connectivity challenges in their areas, and for them to bid for money to help start up a new transport service in their area. And that's starting to bear some fruit. We've got some of those schemes in the pipeline. We hosted some sessions, I think it was in October last year, where parish councils, community transport operators could come in and talk through their proposals. We help them along the way, really. So there's that opportunity for that kind of bottom-up approach for us to work with local communities to try and solve those problems. And there is some set aside within the allocation overall to try and remedy those connectivity gaps. So that's the first thing. We're very willing to work creatively with the funding. But what I will say is that in terms of where we are budget-wise at the county council, we won't be able to commit to long-term funding for any new or direct replacement bus services that have been lost in the past, whether that was through SP25, SP23 or others, because we can't commit the county council to a long-term budget subsidy that we don't have. So it will, what the principle of the BSIP money is coming up with creative solutions. It's supporting services that have got potential to grow and get more people on buses. So what we've always got to have in mind is that whatever proposals, however we come forward with, however creative we are, that the end game has got to be that they've got to be able to stand on their own 2 feet commercially. So yes, very happy to have the discussion, but that's really important to bear in mind. In terms of Councillor Williams, the revenue allocation, the question was about it. It's fixed at 8.2 million per annum over the life of the 4-year allocation. Will it lead to reduced services? Well, this funding isn't for supporting bus services on an ongoing basis. This is all about pump priming. It's about short-term commercial support for those services that have got potential to grow. So we're not kind of working with a budget that's fixed for service support as we would with the county council's own bus support budget line, if you like. The funding will ebb and flow between services over the period of 4 years. So once we've done some pump priming on one route, for example, and then that becomes part of those whether it's early morning journeys, whether it's later night journeys, Sunday services. The idea is that we've worked with the bus operators to identify those routes that we can add to with those extra services, and they will form part of the core commercial network in due course. So that funding will ebb and flow between services over the course of the 4 years. It won't be a fixed sum every year. So that's not a concern. And then the other question that you asked, Councillor Williams, was around the can services be reintroduced. I think I've just answered that one to say that it's going to have to be something different where we can see a commercially viable future for any service. So in principle, it's a yes, but it's got to be commercially viable, and it's got to have short-term funding. We can't take on those long-term funding liabilities. And then around the socially necessary definition, we don't have the guidance yet from the Department for Transport. That will come out later in the month, and then we've got the best part of a year to work out exactly what that socially necessary definition is, what it means, how it translates into Hampshire's bus network, and can it include services that have been removed? Can it include new different services? The answer is we don't know yet until we receive the definitive guidance from the DFT. But again, we won't be able to commit to services that need long-term revenue funding. And then Councillor Porter, you're talking about a service that starts early in the morning and goes from Winchester out to Micheldever, and there's nobody on that first leg. That I'm pretty much 100% certain will be what's called a positioning journey. The bus company will know that won't carry anybody. We won't be paying anything for it, but it's kind of a tactical approach. They register it as a local bus service because they can claim bus service operators grants back from the DFT, which is what used to be called fuel duty rebate. If they run a bus in service out to Micheldever, rather than run it empty with no passengers on and what we'd call dead mileage, it's a positioning journey. So we won't be paying for that in effect. But it's a way of them claiming some money back for the fuel. Second question was around the 67 service, which is the Winchester Petersfield service. It's different on each day of the, well, I don't know the exact details of how the timetable differs on every day of the week, but there will be additional journeys on school days, and they will be for the 67. I know has got funding in there from Children's Services as part of the school transport budget. It's got some local bus money in there as well. Some of it is operated commercially by Stagecoach. We've managed to keep that service going over the years. It's a complex mix of funding that goes into it, and anything that runs on school days will have there'll be some revenue that goes with that will offset the running costs. If those children aren't, the school children aren't travelling on non-school days, the bus company won't be getting the revenue for them, so it won't be making any money on those days. That's why the timetable will be reduced on a non-school day. And then the final one was around the worthies to Henry Beaufort School, I think, and the proposed withdrawal of the school transport, and a discussion about the Service 6, which is the Springvale service into Winchester, and unreliability. I think we're quite prepared to tackle that with Stagecoach. I think through the enhanced partnership, we've got very good relationships with the bus operators at a high level. But on the board, we have the managing directors of the bus companies. At the working group, we have their fellow directors and local managers, and similarly on the stakeholder forum. So there's lots of ways that we can tackle that. I don't think we'd have a problem for a minute in setting up a kind of task and finish group, if you like, to have an in-depth look at the unreliability of the 6 and see where it's being held up, see why it's running unreliably, whether it's due to traffic congestion, whether it's problems with staffing in the depot. I don't know what those causes will be, but I don't think we'll have a problem with doing a piece of work with Stagecoach, a kind of task and finish group. So we can certainly propose that. And I think I've just noted one more down about the accessibility to bus stops, Councillor Porter, and that was under the Bus Services Act 2025, we've got the new duty around defining the socially necessary network. We've also got a new duty about improving physical accessibility to the bus network. And so we haven't got the guidance out specifically around, or we haven't received the guidance specifically on that piece of work yet. But again, it's similar in as much that we've got to put a plan together as to how we're going to make the bus network physically more accessible for people to use. And that will improve bus stops. It will improve local footpaths, crossing points, tactile paving, all those sorts of things that you would expect to see. But we won't be able to do them everywhere because there simply won't be enough money. We will have to go through a prioritised list. If you've got locations to add to that list, absolutely, we've got no problem with adding them to the list and taking them on.
Brilliant, thank you. That's really helpful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew. That was very comprehensive, I think, well covering the questions raised by the deputies. I think that was a good introduction to everybody about this particular paper and what it contains and the meaning of it. So I've just seen that Councillor Williams has put a note in the chat as well. Fellow councillors, members, Kirsty, would you like to come in at this point?
Thanks, Lulu. Only, I'm sure Mike will say the same, but it had a great airing at Select Committee this morning. Loads of questions and interest in how the funds are proposed to be spent, and the backing for the various different options, including greater links with rail and the real-time signage, which is greatly appreciated, I think, by residents, so they can know what's going on and what their options are. But generally very happy. Thank you.
Mike, as the chairman of the Select Committee at the moment, any comments from you?
No, not at all, Lulu. I think Kirsty summed it up there. We had an excellent discussion, a lot of questions, probing questions, statements, comments, and it had a really thorough airing. And I got the impression that, generally speaking, that the members were satisfied with the responses that came. Andrew did an absolutely first-class presentation with Frank Baxter's help. So yeah, really good airing. So nothing more that I can add to it. Thank you.
Lovely. And I'd like to add my thanks as well to the Select Committee this morning. And I hear it went very well, as you say, good discussions. And my apologies once again for not being able to join you.
Forgive me.
Thank you, Mike. Malcolm, Councillor Wallace, would you like to come in at this point?
I I think, like the other two councillors said, we had a good discussion this morning. There were a number of issues raised there, but I don't think we need to repeat them again.
No, okay, thank you. In that case, I'd just like to say a few words, and my thanks as always to the bus team, the passenger transport team. I'm always very pleased to be working with you, and I think there's some great works that have been done and that we can continue to do and improve on the services, particularly I think once we've got the socially necessary definition, we've received it from government, because within that there could be some new initiatives perhaps that we can do. We can look at improving the services that we've got, and as you say, finding out about whether or not we can reinstate bus services that are no longer with us and that haven't, we stopped. I think it's important to know whether or not other possibilities can be considered, shall we say. I think it would be good if we can to take into consideration some of the comments from the deputies today. I'm particularly conscious that sometimes we ought to be working more closely with the communities that are affected by some of the bus routes that are proposed, and finding a way of how we can do that, if in the best way possible. I think putting people and places at the heart of our decisions is key for me as well, while obviously doing a lot of the pump priming on some of the facilities, etc., whether it's bus shelters and real-time information, improving the safety at the bus stations and the hubs, etc. There's a lot of other good works going on within these proposals. Also, I was pleased to read about how the Enhanced Partnership is working with disability groups on how to improve facilities and the experience of using the bus transport, because we had a lady called Patricia Clements come in at full council last Thursday and give a very good deputation about her experiences on passenger transport, on the buses particularly. And I was pleased to see that this is already taking place, and perhaps we could ask Patricia to come into a meeting in the future. So there's a lot of content here. I think it's been a very useful session. Let me just say that we are also doing a members briefing on the 9th of March regarding the BSIP funding. And there will be another opportunity for all members to ask questions and find out more about the schemes. So without further ado, I think I would like to say that I am going to follow the recommendations in paragraphs 2 to 5 on page 311 and approve these proposals. Thank you. And then moving on to the next item, since we're following my items in the agenda, Kirsty, to the end, is the project appraisal for Upper Street in Fleet, pages 329, 346. And may I ask Patrick to introduce this report, please?
Of course, thank you, Councillor Baumann. So, as you say, this is the approval of the project appraisal for Upper Street in Fleet, and it's about the Upper Street Junction Safety Improvement Scheme. There's got a lot of detail in the report, but one of the key points I just wanted to bring up, it's fully funded from developer contributions, this scheme. So I wasn't intended to go into detail. We've got officers on the call if we need to answer any technical questions, but that's all I was going to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Members on the call, Kirsty, anything you'd like to say on this particular item? Oops.
I'm happy with this, Lulu. I think we had a reasonable briefing and we all understood, and local members are content, so I have no concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, Councillor Ford.
Sorry, just reaching for the switch there. No, nothing to add. Thanks, Lulu.
Thank you very much, Mike. Councillor Wallace, Patrick, Malcolm. Oh, there you are.
Yep. Pleased to note the strong safety benefits of the scheme, particularly given the collision history and speeding issues on Upper Street. And appreciate the developer funding is covering the full cost, so I'm supportive of the project.
Thank you very much, everybody. And you've actually said exactly what I was going to say, Councillor Wallace, which is, taking into account the collision data, the safety aspects of this particular scheme are much needed, I think. And I think the interventions should, particularly on Upper Street, I think, should minimise these concerns with the one-way system and segregated give-way cycle signs, etc. And I believe it's coming in on an 18-month trial basis, so we can actually monitor the success, hopefully, of this particular scheme. So I'm happy for this to be to go forward, and I'm happy to approve it. And therefore, the recommendations in paragraphs 2 to 5 on page 329 are complete. Thank you. So moving on to item 9, which is the project appraisal for Eastern Andover active travel improvements, pages 347 to 362. Patrick, over to you again.
Of course, thank you, Councillor Baumann. So this is active travel improvements for Eastern Avenue. You'll see in the report, again, quite a lot of detail for that. This is about the authority to enter into the necessary procurement spending and the contractual arrangements for the project itself. And again, not dissimilar to the last one, this is fully funded from developer contributions, this scheme, so it's fully funded there. So that was all I was going to say by way of introductions. And again, we've got colleagues who'd be happy to answer any technical questions on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Over to you, Councillor North, because this is your particular patch, isn't it? Your division, so, or near it.
Yeah, part of it. Thank you, Lulu. Yeah, I mean, as Patrick said, this is going to improve walking and cycling from the east of Andover into Andover itself, predominantly into the schools, and there's quite a few schools in that and that road, and then through Vigo Park into the town centre. So it should have a really positive impact on behaviour, creating safer, more attractive cycling options. Will hopefully make it a far more appealing choice for pupils to travel to school by bike. Because we have a lot of congestion at school time, so I hope to see that positive behaviour change there. And we are using fully funded developer contributions, so putting those contributions for their intended purpose and making sustainable travel genuine, convenient alternative. So it ticks all the boxes for me. Thank you, Councillor Baumann.
Thank you, Councillor North. Councillor Ford, Mike.
No, I don't think there's anything I can add. Thanks, Lulu.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Wallace, welcome.
Nothing from me either. Thank
you.
you.
Okay. I think Councillor North, you've really summed up all the the main points of this. I think with your local knowledge, it's a great insight that you're giving us actually as well on the benefits of it. And I can see that it's the first phase of a long-term ambition to link Andover town with the new developments in the east. So I think there's some very good works coming forward, and as it's Councillor North has says, there is a real chance of improving both cycling and pedestrian usage. So all positive. Thank you. Thank you to the officers as well. So the recommendations are in paragraphs 2 to 5 on pages 347, and I am happy to approve this scheme. Thank you. And then moving on for item 10, we're coming back to bus transport. Community Transport Scheduling Software Grant Scheme, pages 363 to 370. And Patrick, once again, to you, please.
Of course, thank you, Councillor Baumann. I mean, the title probably says it all for this one. This is about approval to award grants to enable community transport operators to purchase new scheduling software. And what this will do is increase the efficiency of journey scheduling and just modernise the community transport services to assist in scheduling and the number of passengers for those community transport trips. But again, as always with this report, there's quite a lot of detail in there. There's many parts to sort of look at here. I'm joined with officers on the call who can answer any technical questions should we have them. But I'm happy to take those. But that's all I was going to say by way of introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Councillor North, Kirsty, any comment from you?
No, nothing from me on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ford, Mike.
No, I'm sorry to be boring, but I don't think I can add anything to this. Thanks, Lulu.
Thank you. And Councillor Wallace, welcome. Anything from you?
Yeah, it's obviously a good thing to get this software, and it'll help to improve the community transport. I have mentioned before, and I'll keep mentioning it again. While for my own division, while the Winchester Base scheme works well for the residents close to the city, the current community transport model really struggles to meet the needs of people living in the more rural parts of the Meon Valley. When the buses have to travel long distances just to reach the first passenger, the service becomes inherently less efficient, and no amount of software can overcome that challenge. So I do think we need a broader rethink of the community transport model in the wider area, but in terms of the software, I think it will be great for those people who where the service is of value.
Yeah, thank you very much for those comments. And similar from me as well. I think, you know, we had another system, we reviewed it, we then looked at this particular offer, and I think the decision is a good one that we've made, and will give better access for passengers. So I'm happy to approve this, and thank you to everybody that was involved in researching and bringing this forward. So the recommendations are in paragraph 2 on page 363, and I am happy to approve them. Thank you. Now I'm going to pass back to Kirsty. We're doing a reverse order in this agenda, and thank you for taking over, Kirsty. That'd be excellent. And you're on item 1 of the agenda, I believe.
Thank you.
There's no confusion online with this one.
No, thank you very much. So we're back with my part of the decision day, so which is continuing on the same webcast, and I have no public deputation. So as Lulu says, we're off straight away to item 1, which is the project appraisal for Havant Footbridge replacement stage 2 construction. Over to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Councillor North. So this is the project appraisal, you say, for Havant Footbridge replacement. So it's replacing the footbridge which currently goes over the railway. It's a really vital piece of infrastructure for the town. That's one of the first things to say, and it's in need of replacement. So this is the phase 2 part of that, and seeking approval to proceed with that one. So again, colleagues are on the call if we have got any technical questions, but that was all I was going to say by way of introduction. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much, Patrick. And Councillor Baumann, this is close to you, so I assume you'd like to go first.
I would very much like to go first, and I'm hugely appreciative of this coming forward. The structure of the bridge has been deteriorating, and then also the additional structure that was holding the original bridge up as well. So I asked Councillor Adams-King to come down a couple of years ago and have a look at it, and we have been able to bring this forward with funding from various sources. So in my patch, I think the residents will be hugely appreciative for the additional size of it and its increased use as well. So I'm very pleased and looking forward to using it myself. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. Everyone else on the call, Councillor Ford, Councillor Wallace, anything you'd like to add? No problem. Well, we've received other briefings on this, and I understand not quite as closely as Councillor Baumann does the need for it to be replaced, but I understand that it's very old and it is in need of replacement, but also modern access requirements are needed to bring it up to usable standard nowadays. So I'm very happy to approve this. It seems like a vital piece of infrastructure for Havant, so making it safer, more accessible to support all sorts of residents for years to come is really important, and I'm pleased that we're able to do that. So I'm happy to approve the recommendations on paragraphs 2 to 5 on page 5. And we can move on to item number 2, which is the annual review of the policy for the regulation of Investigatory Powers Act 2000. Patrick, over to you.
Thank you, Councillor North. We bring this every year to this decision day, and really it's about the covert, the approval for the policy for covert investigation surveillance techniques under the Code of Practice issued by the Home Office. It seeks approval for the policy. We've got Richard Strawson on the call here, who's our Head of Trading Standards, and we'd be very happy to answer any sort of technical questions should you have any. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. Only one question really from me, which wasn't fully answered previously, and that's just when did we last use them, and what impact did they have?
Richard, would you be happy to pick that up, please?
Yes, I'll quite happily pick that up. Thank you, Councillor North. So we last used, we haven't used covert human intelligence source since I've been with the County Council, so that's 3.5 years. I think that is the least used of all our powers. This is covert human intelligence sources where we either charge one of our officers or a third party with undertaking a relationship with a potential person involved in criminality. So we haven't done that recently. In terms of the other two areas, the direct covert surveillance work we last used in September 2025 in respect of detecting underage sales of vapes, and we visited covertly 4 premises using covert filming techniques, and we had 2 sales that took place as a result of that, and the evidence directly obtained from that covert surveillance is coming before the courts shortly in a prosecution on both those cases, I believe. And in terms of the communications data, which we use more regularly, this is where we access information regarding ownership of phones, emails, websites. We have used, I think, tail end of 2025, again, relating to a rogue trader investigation where we needed to ascertain who was operating email addresses and who was behind those email addresses. And again, that case is currently being considered by barristers with a view to charges.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's really useful to understand, and I'm pleased to hear that it's actually having a positive impact for residents and helping lead to prosecutions in that sphere. Other members on the call, would you like to add anything on this item?
No comment, thank you, Kirsty. All good.
Seeing lots of shakes of head. I think everyone's suitably pleased, and so we can continue, and I'm happy to approve the recommendation, which is in paragraph 2 on page 23. And then we can move on to item 3, which is the Basingstoke Canal annual update and budget. Back to you, Patrick.
Thank you, Councillor North. So this is the annual update on Basingstoke Canal. In particular, the budget, we talk about the 24-25 year final outturn. The budget also proposed 25-26 and the forward look 26-27. Again, quite a lot of detail within the report. Got colleagues on the call should we want to take any questions, but that was all I was going to say by way of introduction. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. And again, we've had previous briefing on this, so I'm fairly comfortable. But if any other members would like to ask James a question on the report, now is your opportunity.
Nothing for me, thank you, Kirsty.
That's fine. I see none.
I guess just to say, you know, we had some questions during the pre-brief about long-term sustainability, but the team answered those questions at that time. So nothing further now. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Malcolm. Pleased to hear that. In which case, I am happy to approve those recommendations, and they are on paragraphs 2 to 3 on page 45. And we can move on to agenda item number 4, which is the Eastleigh Transport Strategy. Please, Patrick.
Thank you, Councillor. So we've got 2 papers coming up now. The first is the Eastleigh Transport Strategy. So this is seeking approval to the Eastleigh Transport Strategy. It sets the direction and prioritisation of the transport schemes, and they support better integration of land use and travel planning. Again, a lot of detail contained within the report. A huge amount of work's gone into these papers. Colleagues are on the call who'd be happy to answer questions on anything in particular. That was all I was going to say by way of introduction. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. And again, we've had specific briefings on the transport strategies and understand their approach and in the importance they place on trying to utilise funds and bid for funds when looking at travel plans for these towns. Councillors on the call, unmute if you'd like to say something. Malcolm.
Yeah, the environmental direction in this strategy is good. Clear emphasis on walking, cycling, public transport is great. But at the same time, I'm very mindful of the real congestion issues that residents experience daily around Eastleigh Town Centre and down towards Hamble. So while I support the environmental and sustainability principles in the strategy, I'm also somewhat nervous about how the new approach will provide practical relief for communities who currently feel very constrained by traffic and limited travel choices. We talked a little bit about this on the pre-brief, but the scheme does rely heavily on future funding bids and future developer contributions. So it does make me a little nervous about how this one works out. So I guess I guess there was a question. Are the local members, have they commented on this strategy, and are they happy with the direction?
Are you happy, Councillor North, to hand over to Frank to pick up that specific question?
Yeah, sure, Frank. If you could talk us through a bit more in terms of the strategy, the way in which we seek developer contributions to move forward with some of these large scale projects, and the member engagement, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, so we went through a very thorough process of member engagement, going through Eastleigh's area committees, which included county councillors and also the district councillors, in order to workshop and come up with proposals and plans that are enshrined within the strategy. Yes, there is a lot of support for what we have in the plan, and I think, Councillor Wallace, what you've identified around, yes, there's lots of congestion as well, and a belief, a view that actually are all these sustainable transport measures going to help enough. That's going to all be down to how much funding can we access and how far can we go in delivering those measures going forward. And the key thing from my perspective is, if you don't have a plan, you can't secure the funding in the first place. So that's why the report is coming forward to decision day.
Thank you, Frank. And again, we've talked at length about all the different schemes and the ability to harness funds for those to take place, and developer contributions, and is the way forward really for this and the following strategy. So I understand all of that. Councillor Baumann, any thoughts from you?
No, nothing from me. Thank you.
Okay, in which case I will approve the recommendations, and they're in paragraphs 2 to 6 on pages 59 and 60, and we can go to the Fareham and Gosport transport strategy. Back to Patrick or Frank.
Thank you, Councillor North. Nothing really in detail to add on this one, other than similar purpose to the previous report. This is the transport strategy covering the Borough of Fareham and the Borough of Gosport. But again, Frank would be happy to take any questions on this should we need to. Thank you.
Thanks. And again, we've had a separate briefing to discuss this. I am generally very happy and pleased to hear about the engagement and the different options that are outlined and seek to address with developer contributions. It's disappeared off. Oh yeah, Councillor Ford, there you are. Would you like to say something? This is local to you.
Yeah, it's pretty good news really for Fareham and Gosport, and of course we heard a bit of that this morning in the strategy about the electric buses. That's we've now got a huge number of electric buses on that route, so it all seems pretty positive. So other than that, I can't add a lot more to it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any thoughts on this one, Councillor Wallace?
Nothing more. I think my questions were answered at the pre-brief. Thank you.
No problem. Councillor Baumann?
Just a quick one from me. I think it's essential. I mean, bearing in mind the amount of development, particularly on the Daedalus waterfront development and the enterprise zone, Solent enterprise zone, I think these measures are very necessary in an area that has one main road going in, and that's, as I'm sure Councillor Ford knows, the A32. And then at the other end down to Stubbington and Titchfield, we need these additional measures to be put in place in order to improve what has been a very congested area. And with these developments coming forward, I think it will be a great benefit. So yeah, very happy with it. Thank you.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more. It's really important that we have these plans and we evidence them so that it puts us in a really strong position when the developments are coming forward, that we can ensure that we are accessing improvements not only for the residents of those new developments, but for existing residents in the town and the wider commercial area, so that we can continue to keep Hampshire moving. So I'm very happy to approve the recommendations, and they are, when I find my notes, in paragraphs 2 to 4 on page 245 of the agenda. And we can now move to item number 6, which is the appointments to outside bodies. And are you introducing this, Patrick? It doesn't really need an introduction.
Yes, I am, Councillor. It doesn't really need much.
Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. It's a report actually from the Director of People and Organisation, and it's about the representation of outside bodies and the appointment to the Southampton Airport Consultative Committee. But really, back to you, Councillor North, please.
Yeah, thank you, Patrick. No problem. So yes, it's the Southampton Airport Consultative Committee, and I will be proposing that Councillor Stephen Broomfield and Councillor Rod Cooper are our 2 representatives on that. But I do note that the term of office will end in May when we have county council elections, and therefore they will have a few months to impact that before we will need to reappoint. But those are my 2 appointees, please. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. So could we please have the webcast ended? Thank you, Caroline.